Here's Jeff's own story in his own words. I asked him to send this to me so I could include it in the book. Jeff's words. I was instructed by General Green to select 2 more judo instructors from our growing judo and hand-to-hand combat program. That was difficult because although we had many students in our team, none were ready to become instructors. Before I could get my thoughts together, a brand new DI by the name of Tommy Little tapped me on the shoulder one night at the slop shoot and asked to be taught judo. I agreed. He showed up regularly. I slammed him. I choked him. I threw him in every which way but loose. He actually enjoyed it. He loved the break falls. He wouldn't quit and he couldn't get enough of it. He stuck with it. I was thinking, not bad for a Pogey Bay Marine. That's a nickname given by combat veterans to all us non-combat Marines. Another brand new DI, a real combat veteran from Korea, Sergeant Bob Burke, also trained on our team. Jeff, his name, he says I picked both of them as my new instructors to begin immediately and promptly went on a 30-day leave. When I returned from leave, Tom and Bob were both experienced in fighting, teaching, and doing regular public relations demonstrations for high-ranking officers of all the U.S. services, plus heads of state, including Vice President Nixon. They were also intensely training together every spare minute as Olympic-style judo partners. They trained all day, every day at their new sport. They took to judo, jiu-jitsu, and karate like Japanese nationals. They both ate, slept, and dreamed about Olympic judo. I also want to note that Jeff is alive today. He's in his early 80s, and he's living outside of Paris Island in a place called Beaufort. And he had an illustrious career that culminated as a Marine Corps Sergeant Major, while General Wallace Green was the actual commandant of the Marine Corps. I met him in several reunions just a few years ago, and we still speak through emails to each other. However, make no mistake about it, Jeff Nadeau, single-handedly, was the sole driving force behind self-defense and hand-to-hand combat in the United States Marine Corps. Later, he was transferred to Camp Lejeune to develop a range of hand-to-hand combat training experiences to suit the whole Marine infantry. I visited the judo program with him at PI just a few years ago. I promise you, the self-defense training we witnessed today, being taught today, is identical to the way we taught together in the old Corps in the 50s. During the 56 to 58 era, judo became a very popular Olympic sport in both our country and in the Corps. The Amateur Athletic Union was pushing hard for an American test match for entry into future Olympic Games. Jeff talked to the general into starting an all-Marine Corps competitive team made up of judoka from all the different United States Marine bases. He decided to have the first national United States Marine Corps Judo Championship at Paris Island. I sent back to Mount Airy a proud U.S. Marine Corps judo team picture of me sitting in a Japanese judo gi to both the Aunt Bert and the grandma, never thinking for one split second about the Second World War, Guadalcanal, Iwo Jima, or Uncle Ray. And at a later Dewey Clan drinking party shortly afterwards, I came home on leave. Both uncles, Bill and John, cornered me and gave me some serious Second World War lip about it. I told them off and dared them and anyone else in the family to go ahead and touch me and try to do something about it. Uncle Connie secretly told me the next day how proud he was that I physically stood up to the Deweys, and I never had another word since from any of them. I learned that night I was no longer afraid of the Dewey clan, or any other adult for that matter, and I never ever would be physically afraid again. I've always been grateful for this gift of physical confidence, both in myself and in judo, and I attribute it all to Jeff. I thought being a DI was the highlight of my life, until I walked down the main drag at Paris Island on the parade ground in front of the United States Marine Iwo Jima Monument in my judo gi and flip-flops. Everyone, including civilians and passing cars, were staring at us. Jeff got the wrestling match delivered from the Sunbury factory and convinced the general to give him the old base Lyceum movie theater. We, newly minted judo instructors were all in the work party that tore the seats out and got the place ready for a dojo. The 4 large wrestling mats took up the entire building. We trained thousands upon thousands of Marines under that roof, and our first realistic Marine Corps hand-to-hand combat training experience. And by the way, it's still there today, and they're still training the same way. One of the moves we taught recruits was a Japanese sleeper. It can kill silently in seconds, or just snap the victim's neck. Jeff could do it by diving through the air silently, put the lock on the victim, and roll. Brr. When he stopped, the victim was dead. Our sensei was truly a scary guy. We were all recruited to do a PR piece for True Magazine. He was the star, and I was the fall guy in all the pictures. We taught Marines to kill with their bare hands every single day. It was the greatest job I ever had. Back in Mount Airy, at the sweet shop, my brother Jimmy was hanging around, and guess what? He learned the parasailing, the sleeper. And by the way, he was now totally pissed off at being told that he was finally out of the Corps forever. His temper always got the best of him, all his life. Everyone else was the dumb guy or the mean guy. He always swung first, always. I knew it was not a temper problem. I knew it was just really the fact that he was a mean kid. He loved to hurt people. I was the one that brought out his temper. He wanted me to be his daddy. I refused to cooperate. Now, sometimes I gave in, but not very often. He'd swing. I'd beat the living hell out of him, bang his head into the ground if necessary until he's quit. And that was usually when someone pulled us apart. In a fight with me, we would both have to fight to the death. I had to hurt him to make him stop. I had absolutely no choice. One day, Dickie saw Jimmy at the sweet shop, and they started playing around, or as Marines call it, grab ass. And it soon turned into a struggle that soon turned into a very vicious fight. Jimmy got the sleeper on Dickie. Dickie went out cold. He woke up shaking all over and said with a big grin, "Where the hell did you learn that?" Next thing I saw in our brand new dojo at Paris Island was the face of Dickie Walters grinning in the back of the crowd of new recruits like an old friend who just stopped in for instructions. I walked back to him silently and took him aside for a moment. "Dickie, what the hell are you doing here?" "Your brother put me to sleep at the sweet shop, and I wanted to learn how he did it," he said, laughing and grinning. I called him out in front of his recruit platoon for a sleeper demonstration, and instantly put him to sleep in front of his platoon. He woke up grinning and shaking all over, as everybody does, his own DI rolling on the ground with laughter at Dickie, as Dickie's shaking and the blood's returning slowly to his brain. The DI always called him Private Cupcake. His mother regularly sent him pounds of cupcakes in care packages. It's regular practice for DIs to make you eat every single thing that comes in your package. The problem was Dickie could eat the whole thing in one sitting. He always finished every last one of them, grinning at the DI with cupcake crumbs all over his mouth, his nose, and his chin. After the demonstration, I did not see Private Cupcake again for many, many years. And next, we'll have Chapter 7, Liberty Call.